Welcome to Oink Time Pod. I'm Jen Carnovale.
And I'm Ben Ellwood.
And this week's guest
is Alexei Toliopoulos, the great Alexei Toliopoulos.
Oh my goodness, what a smiley day.
Podcast host, filmmaker, and comedian.
Of course, if you like the podcast, please share it and rate it with all of your little oinky friends. That's how we get the word out there, and that's what we would love to happen.
Please do that, guys.
You can contact us at OinkTimePod on Twitter. Let us know if you have any words or any guests that you have that you'd like us to have a chat with. Some interesting people out there.
Yes. We'd like to thank our producer, Sean Allen, for making all of this happen, and the Young Henry's Brewery for getting our guests drunk and making conversations much easier.
Or sponsoring us. That sounds better.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Okay, here we go. Here's our conversation with Alexei.
Control. Comparing it to my fucking ruptured asshole. Chris was complaining about
No,
a pain.
he
She's
doesn't
like,
have
well, Betty
sciatica.
can't even shit, so shut up.
No, we were like arguing. I think we're just arguing for the sake of arguing. We're both like overtired and I was sick. I was sick as shit and Chris was drunk and he complained about something and I was like, you should be positive, which for me is fucking obscene.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, stuff's shit. And I was like, don't complain about your stuff. Ben has real stuff. Ben can't shit. Ben can't ever shit. And he's like, Ben not being able to shit has nothing to do with my pain. Which I know and I feel horrible about. But I think we're just both...
Parents drove off a cliff. Ben can't shit. Shut the fuck up.
We're both just fucking tired and like the more people dig their heels into an opinion, the more I go the other way. Because I'm not exactly like a positive person. But because Chris was like, oh, thank you, Sean.
Did
Sean.
you literally just spray the stench of my shit out?
Yes, as he fucking should. It's bad to breathe in other people's
Dude, what if
poo
I had to go in
particles.
there as a guest?
Oh, very right. Yeah, you're right.
Do you want to come back into the atmosphere of the podcast with your stench upon me?
It's disgusting.
I have so much shame about it, and
I don't want to shit shame you, but you should have at least sprayed and put the
I
toilet
literally
seat
just-
down.
No, I wouldn't. Please don't take that as shaming. I was a gentle ribbing. One of my biggest fears would be to be shamed for the smell of my shit. I did like 4 shits in high school. Like that's because I was
in the actual school.
in the vicinity of high school. I did 4 shits, 3 of them emergencies because I was too afraid.
What are you more ashamed of? The people hearing the noises or the people smelling the smell?
The noise is bad.
It's
That's
the noise,
real
man.
bad.
Yeah.
I think it's
Because
just
it's like you're caught in the act. Like they're hearing the noise. It's like they see my little fucking sneakers popping out from under the door. It's like, that's me, unmistakably me.
I know those sneakers.
you
Those
ever-
Alexei sneakers.
Have you ever done that thing where you use a public toilet and it's like coated in shit? But it wasn't you. You just went in there to pee.
Yes.
Because I don't know. I imagine you're much like me. You're a booth guy, not a urinal guy.
I've evolved to urinal these days.
Really?
But every now and then I do that. Yes.
What caused the evolution to urinal?
Honestly, when I lost my virginity was when I started going to urinal. I was like, okay, I'm a man. I have the ability to go now. It's got other uses now. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. And then from then on, I was like, okay, I can do it. But every now and then, I'm like, well, no, this is not an ideal situation. It's going to go to my office, unlock the door, and go in.
I got to say the first, because I used to be like
Yeah.
hugely ashamed of urinal.
Why?
Well, look, it's a very private act, pissing and shitting, and I think there's an evolutionary thing.
Is it for
when,
young men?
Well, I think there's an evolutionary thing when you're doing that you are at your most like vulnerable,
Yeah.
and your animal brain is like, I can't defend myself if someone comes up from behind me while I'm doing this. I'm completely exposed and vulnerable.
Can piss on them.
Well, no, you don't, because your dick's jutting forward, so you're just going to like arc all over the place if they're behind you. You can't turn around.
I had no idea there was fear in using a urinal.
Well,
for
I think
men.
there's also judgment of, oh my God, is someone going to look over and see my little penis
Yeah.
and judge me? Or am I going
Am I the smallest one in this lineup here? Am I the weakest one?
Oh my
and there's
God.
also that thing, I don't know if women have this problem, but
Yeah,
like,
we all freak out when
No,
we
I'm
pee
not.
in the
Yeah,
urinal
you're
too.
worried about another lady judging the size of your clit. Do you have a thing where you cannot pee if you feel like you're being watched?
I haven't been watched while peeing that much. It's really hard to gauge that for me as a lady.
You simply must try it, though. You simply must.
Because a lot of the time when you're at a urinal and if you're feeling somewhat self-conscious or a little bit emotionally vulnerable or something, and you're surrounded by, particularly if they're kind of like, they look like alpha males, like they're big guys,
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't pee.
I don't know. I mean, women have cubicles. I can't relate at all. I've never had to I don't know. When
Let's
you
strip the walls down.
When you're drunk, let's start a revolution. When you're drunk and young and you go to the bathrooms with girls and you're like, come on, and you pee together, I've never been scared at all.
I got to say, I felt like the first time.
But again, it's like no one's looking at someone else's vagina and being like, oh, their clit's prettier than mine. I don't think.
Well, I don't think anyone's even looking at each other's penis. It's just the thought that it could. I felt like a big man the first time I strode into a public toilet and pissed at a urinal without any delay.
Yeah.
That's
Just
how
it
you
came
know.
straight out
It
with
just
all the
happens.
flow just immediately.
Yeah.
Look
It was
at me.
I'm
Look at my
fucking-
stream.
Well, it was just that thing of like, oh,
Big
I'm not
man.
self-conscious.
Yeah.
I'm not so self-conscious I can't piss.
I wonder what fucking weird evolutionary thing that serves, because it's got nothing to do with attracting the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Because we ain't in it for the stream. So I don't know. I don't know what it could possibly do. Like, I mean, I guess unless it's like the biggest, like, you know, going up against your competitors for the female.
I think it's a
Yeah.
literal pissing contest.
Because it's that whole thing, like, you know, so much of like animal stuff, animal territory is all piss related.
Yeah.
It must be that, like, you're in there, the pheromones are off, there's like a million pisses in here. You probably, on a subconscious level,
So
detect the
disgusting.
strongest one in there.
Yeah, totally.
And then you're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there, I'm this little shrink dick, just like at the thing, like, okay, I didn't even piss, just head it out for like 4 seconds, and then do it
But
back
no
up, and then
one's-
walk out, wash my hands, pretend I did
you ever done
something.
that? Have you ever
I've done it probably 4 times this week.
And it's so obvious that you didn't piss.
Yeah.
You walk away like, oh, yeah.
It's like, oh gosh, that feels good, and you're still like walking with a full bladder, walking out. The tension of a full bladder. I don't know.
I think it's a masculinity or a alpha male kind of thing where it's like I couldn't even piss.
It's my final neuroses. Is this that I have to get over?
Oh my
It's the
God.
final one that I've got left, and the rest are mother related that I'll have to wait probably 40 years for them to work through.
Mother-related neuroses never go away. That's fucking.
I was
that's a
planning that was my
lifetime
death.
branding.
Yeah.
They're there to the grave.
Lock that in a box and hope it doesn't burst out till I die. Fuck. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a manhood thing. Because I felt, like I
Wow.
said, I felt very proud of myself when I've been between two muscle men and I've been able to pee with no drama.
Wow.
And then there was one time.
This is so-
conversely, I just remembered this. I was in
Fucked up.
Tasmania a couple of months ago, and there was this weird.
Did you feel emasculated around a bunch of like
No, no, no,
12-year-old
the guy I
boys
was-
because
yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't have a strong
Fuck
stream?
you! Don't fucking diminish me. You have no idea what. Don't fucking.
I
This
don't
is my
know.
reality. This
You're
is my
right.
truth.
I don't know your stream. I'm sorry. I feel bad.
No, but there was a guy next to me because it was like this weird trough-like situation. Where
Yeah.
it was like
Aren't they all like that?
no. But this was like there was no even attempt to put a separating wall between pisses. It was just
Yeah.
like a horse's.
I thought they were all
well.
like that.
No. There's
There's
usually a
somewhere
little-
there's like dividers. There's somewhere it's like a beautiful little bowl.
Why do you feel
situation.
nervous if there's a divider or a
No,
bowl?
the divider's the,
The
ideal
divider's fine.
situation.
That's fine.
Beautiful.
Oh.
But when
But
it's
when
like
it's just
the
an
communal,
open plane.
So the anxiety comes when it's an open plane.
Yeah, yeah.
communal trough, because then you're like, where do I stand?
Yeah,
Where do
yeah,
I,
yeah,
how
yeah,
far
yeah.
apart and
Oh.
stuff.
And there is an
Yeah.
etiquette, you know.
Shoulder
like,
to shoulder.
You don't stand shoulder to shoulder if there's places not to stand
Rub-a-dub-dub.
shoulder to shoulder. But there was this guy next to me, and he it was very crowded, and I was
Yeah.
like, I was feeling great, so I just went in, and the piss came straight out.
Yeah.
But then I heard this guy next to me go, can't do it with all these guys
no.
around, and part of my head was like, you fucking loser. Like I felt so much better than
Yeah,
him.
exactly. Go in for the fucking kill on this loser. You know?
I feel like
Did you ever do PP contests in primary school, like to see who could piss up the wall the highest?
Like in Round the Twist.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was
from. Can't say that I did. No.
Yeah, we did.
Must have. I must have though. Because we used to used to hang out in the boys' toilets and stuff. No, I don't think I have no memory of it. The only memories I have in like school situations was like, in kindergarten where there's still kids that are learning how far to pull your pants down when you use the urinal. Because there's like, there'd be like these little boys that like have their trousers all the way down to their ankles and they're just bare butt, like with their hands above their hips, just leaning in to pee. And it's just like,
I don't know why, but I imagine you were one of those guys.
Oh, I think for like
you took
maybe
them all
a day.
the way off, shoes
Yeah,
off.
yeah. Shoes off. I just lie on top of the toilet with my penis directly pointing down.
Urine in the webbing of your
Yeah,
toes.
yeah. But I remember, I have a very vivid memory of a kid doing that, and then someone going up behind them and smacking their buttocks like a bongo drum, like some older boy. And that's visceral. That's locked in. That's probably my first memory.
I don't think this stuff ever goes though, like for men, because Chris just did a gig when there was a gig at the Sly Fox. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And he said he walked in and he could see someone like sitting in the sink in the guys' toilets.
Oh
and he
my
was like,
God, I remember this.
And he was like,
I
oh, they're
remember
too
this.
fucked up. And he walked out and came back in and realized they were trying to piss from the sink into the urinal.
Yes.
And it was a comic.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, oh, hey, man. And he was like, what are you fucking doing? And when he was a drunk guy, he thought the funniest thing to do would be to try and piss across the room.
No, that's fine. I thought you meant that he was so drunk he was confused and thought that was how you piss.
No.
Like he squatted in a sink
maybe.
and
I think he just thought
It's
it
a
was
2-for-1.
funny.
2 different pipes.
I think he thought it was just hilarious.
Oh my God, I remember that.
He was trying to like piss across the room.
I mean, perfect venue for it. Sly Fox.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything
Definitely,
goes. You're allowed to do it there.
Yeah.
There's
And they
a-
encourage it.
There really is just unfettered fucking humanity on display in a public toilet, right?
I
Like,
don't
you
know
can't
why,
avoid it.
but when you were telling those stories, Benny, when you said you were at the place where the guy freaked out and you walked in between the two muscle men and just peed freely,
Yeah.
like a real fucked up part of me felt proud of you.
See? You said you didn't understand it, but now you get it.
Like I was like, good on you.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I feel like
because
that.
it's the overcoming of a feeling of vulnerability and anxiety, and it's because seriously, you cannot piss if you're anxious.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So to be able to just freely piss,
Or you do uncontrollably, like in movies when they're nervous.
No, I think
and,
that's-
and Godzilla comes and they're like,
but I think that's unimaginable fear. I think that's like terror to a point where like
You
like a
lose
friend of mine was
bowels.
scuba diving once, and a whale shark came up right next to her. And
Oh,
she reckons
boy.
like her bladder just immediately released.
yeah.
So I think that's when you're like, state of absolute terror. But anxiety is different because you clench.
Yeah.
Because anxiety is like evolutionarily, anxiety is pulling all your pipes tight so you can
Yeah.
fucking run.
Yeah, I
Hold it in.
don't think there's a female equivalent. I've never been scared about peeing or like with other women around, and I've never been concerned.
But I wonder
about,
if that's a thing that even could happen. Like if you all pissed at, like if you all had to squat next to each other.
women
in
pee.
a
You
trough.
can hear people in the toilets next to you. I've never really been concerned about the sound of their urine.
Do you feel like can you shit freely in a public toilet?
I don't know.
You choose not to.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, I don't. I would not be one of those people who's like, I don't give a fuck. I'd be really uncomfortable.
Why?
I'd
Because you
have
don't
to
want a
be-
stranger judging you.
I just think it's not pleasant for anyone else to be around your shit, which is how it
Yeah.
brings us back to how we started this conversation. You got to spray, Benny. When you do.
I bought a big
gotta
industrial.
mask
I bought a
that.
big industrial box of matches for my home.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah, there is some consideration. I'm aware. I have a lot of shame around this. All right.
I think it's good. I think it's good to have shame. We've talked about this. I think shame serves a evolutionary purpose. There's a reason why you feel shamed when you shit, and it's because back in the day you wouldn't shit next to the campfire where everyone's fucking eating because you'd kill someone
No, I
because of the
disagree.
poo particles. There's a reason why people would go behind a bush and not invite their kids to watch them. You
No,
know,
but that's not
It's-
shame. That's preventing disease. I think the
Yeah, but
shame
it's-
comes from a societal disgust of the bodily output of humans. I
don't
think
know
most
if
of
I
the
agree
shame
with
that we feel is an offshoot of fucking aristocracy and nobility separating themselves from the masses.
Oh,
They
yeah,
used to
like-
shit out the windows.
In privies?
Yeah.
No. The peasants
Throw 'em out.
did. The peasants used to shit in squat pots and privies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the aristocracy did it. They were the ones that invented the idea of doing it in private water closets.
Oh, okay.
And they would, summon the slave boy to come and take
Wow.
their
Bucket.
stool away.
But they'd still chuck that out the window.
I'm no
Down
longer
the
a
river.
socialist. Thank you, bourgeoisie. You changed my life for the better.
Should we go for a word?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Do you want to do a word?
Yeah, of course.
Alexei.
Oh my God,
there
I'm
are
nervous.
4 options. Now you've,
Oh my gosh.
you've listened to every episode. You know how this goes.
Uh-huh.
Fucking
Doing this one.
Biggest
Control. Control.
I'm just making a note.
control.
Control.
Lexi and control.
Wow. It always seems like fate when people pick them out. And
Really?
for me, there is no difference. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
No, what do you mean by it? What do you mean?
I think when people pick them out, usually it's like, wow, I'm fascinated to hear what this person has to say about this topic
cool.
here on this podcast. And it always seems like, wow, this is so lucky that this person got this.
See, it's so
Yeah,
funny because
it's-
I'm always trying to control it.
Yeah, Ben-
there you are. I didn't even think of that.
Ben is constantly trying to rig the
Yeah.
bucket, and I am constantly not letting him.
Because I'm always under the impression of like, this word will suit this person, but I'm always proved wrong.
I think it's more organic when people can pick, and
So-
also they're not going to have the conversation you think they're going to have. But whatever,
Yeah.
control.
I think so much of my life has been like about control and like managing what I control and how to be able to like lose my control and stuff and just be open to the world.
Right.
You know, the concept of free will for me is like, what is my free will? How much can I control of things? And now just trying to swap that out with just positive energy and like, how can I just make it good instead of how can I make it just for me, you know?
Right. So when
That's
you,
interesting.
When you say like control, do you mean, you know, controlling what you say or how you interact with people or
what you do.
Yeah, and how
everything.
people see me and stuff like that, how people interpret my personality, my persona. My chair is squeaky now that I'm on topic and having to think about myself instead of just thinking about my piss and shit for a few minutes.
Isn't it weird that it's easier to talk about your piss and shit than it is to talk about this stuff?
Well, I think for me, like a big one was I went through like a big change when I was like around 20.
Yeah.
I like went through my first big breakup and I was devastated
How
and
long were you
super
together?
sad. Only for a year, but it was like, you know, first
young
love.
love.
Exactly. You never felt these emotions before,
Yeah.
so everything's heightened and crazy and you're fucking weird and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you're temporarily insane when you're in that space.
Yeah, exactly. And I like so much of my self-worth grew from that relationship. I wouldn't say came from it, but grew from it and was able to go like, oh no, I am a man. I'm not a little boy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm a man.
Yeah, exactly. I've never said it like that before, but you know.
I've got pubes, I'm a man.
Yeah, I'm getting closer to be able to doing that. But there, you know, that so much of who I was came from that, and then you're by yourself and you're trying to figure out like, who am I now? Not when I'm not related to this person anymore, when I'm just out on my own. I was like super deeply depressed and like openly depressed and sad. And I was at that point in my life and throughout my teenage years, I was very, very cynical, like a very cynical person. And then I remember that I was like, I used to smoke so much fucking weed. Like I was I was almost every day. Like I used to smoke weed all the time.
Wow.
When I was unemployed, I used to wake and bake and stuff like that.
I can't even imagine this.
Yeah, I think up until like probably 4 years ago, I used to smoke a lot of weed.
Really?
Like when I first started doing stand-up, I was still a weed boy. I was stoner and stuff like that.
I can't imagine you were some hyper cynical wake and baker.
Oh,
That's
yeah, it
fucking
was
bizarre.
so different. But it's the way that it changed and when it started happening and when I started like kind of giving up some of the control or like changing my control around it was it's so sad, especially as like a very passionate film fan. This is so sad to me. Was like I like had like one really low point where I went to bed like super stoned and like was crying and shit. And then the next day was a really nice day. I'm like, okay, I feel really good. Like I purged myself or something. It felt like. And then I went with a friend to see the movie The King's Speech. And it's like such a nice, feel-good Oscar type movie. And I was like, wow, I feel so good. I feel so happy and positive. And I took like that energy from that day and like applied it ever since then. Like that's
amazing.
The movie that changed my life is the fucking King's Speech. It's so to me like so sad.
No, that's fucking great.
Yeah, I don't know. Just to me, I wish it was something cooler than just like one of the lamest Oscar-y movies ever.
What was it? Was it the because I find when I'm really down is when I default into like Marvel movie mode, where it's like I just want to lie in bed and I want to know who the bad guy is and I want to know who the good guy is and everything's very simple and it is like it's very comforting. So do you think it was the simplicity of the movie?
I think it was definitely that simplicity. It was Oscar season. I was wrapped up in the buzz and just like, but you know, it's the simplicity of just seeing someone overcome something like just that. All that movie is. It's just someone at their low point overcoming something, and I'm just like with a little help from the disgraced Jeffrey Rush along the way. I'm like, that's all I needed was like to get into a nice groove. It was summer. I embraced summer from the first time.
But like, how do you? Because I've had so many revelations watching stuff and listening to and I'm like, oh my god. And that revelation will last like a day or two, and then I'll just default back to where I was.
Yeah.
How do you think you were able to hold on to that inspiration?
I think for me, it was like, usually when I'm watching movies, it feels like study.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like it's fun. Like I love watching movies, it's my favorite thing in the world, but it's not like escapism often. It's not just like losing myself. That's more something like I get from reality TV or whatever, because it feels like unstructured to me.
Yeah.
But then something like this is just like, usually I'm just like analyzing it or
While
getting
it's going.
exactly. It's like, I feel like I'm taking notes in my head and like, oh, how are they? I see what they're doing. How are they doing it and stuff like that. But that was like a rare time where I think as I had like this emotional bearing, this purging, I was able to just like be open to it and be swept up in it. And it's one of the rare times where that happened because it's such like a sweet, positive, happy, overcoming movie that it just like opened me up to like this positive energy. And from then on, I was like able to see quite clearly like what I wanted.
And you gave up smoking weed and all that stuff?
Oh, no, a few years later. But it was a little journey there. I think like from then on, that was when I started like realizing like that happiness was a thing that I could almost control. Where I was I can bring I can like have just let happiness be part of my life instead of it being something that didn't really exist.
And then it's like a choice type thing.
Yeah, almost. Like I think
it
at the time it was a choice,
too,
and now to me it's like I it's just part of me now. Is that like I'm a positive, happy, sunny person, and then have my bouts of gloominess and darkness and stuff. But it became like the default setting. I like switched what the default setting was.
Feel like you have to check in every morning for it to be the default setting?
Not now. Sometimes
because it's a habit now.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes now I will have to. Like I've been going through some like shit these days, which has been tough.
Yeah.
Like just like my mum has not been so well, and like I'm the only child, so it's like I have to.
It's a heavy responsibility.
Yes, it's a huge responsibility, and it's like sucks, especially like when I want to be like this sunny person.
Yeah.
And now it's like no, I got to get back to that point because that feels really nice to be happy and make people feel happy.
So within that, when you said it's hard because you're feeling all these other things because things are happening in your life.
Yeah.
Do you feel guilt if you don't feel like you're the happy person?
Yeah, I think I do. Oh no, I've unlocked it.
Guilty or happy?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right.
You feel like there's a quiet pressure that you're the happy person and we perceive you as the happy person. So if you rock up upset, it's like, oh, Alexi's not the happy like we hired happy Alexei and we got bummed out Alexei.
Yeah,
like, do you feel like that?
Well, yeah, because I want to be the sunny boy that can brighten everybody's mood up. But then when I'm like,
such a giver.
I don't want to be like that succubus and start sucking people's energy
you're
in,
such a giver.
No,
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I wish I could look back and say the same thing. There's so many times in my life when I've been the fucking shit turd of the party because they're like, "Are you having fun?" And I'm like, "Everything sucks." I mean, I think that's a very generous attitude that you have.
But do you find it? Can that be exhausting?
Oh yeah, totally.
It's fucking exhausting.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Because it's like like I'm definitely not.
But being a fucking downer and a bum is exhausting too.
Well, I think being anything all the time is exhausting. Whether it's happy or depressed or whatever.
Yeah.
I understand that not wanting to be the succubus mentality. Like, I'll sequester myself for months at a time sometimes where it's like I know there's a difference between me in a dark mood and me in an apocalyptic black hole mood.
Exactly.
And I shouldn't be around people when I'm like that. But do you feel like you're saying before this stuff going on with your mum and you don't want to default into this feeling of whatever, depression or sadness or anything. Do you not feel that you have to honor those things though?
Yeah, I think it is, but it's one of those things where those things are happening and you're just like, I have too much responsibility to fall into this hole, otherwise nothing is going to get done. Because if I'm not making the energy to try and like get through it and try and be myself through it take control over those things, so it's like that it can be still as good as it can be, rather than letting it all fall and then having to rebuild from the bottom again. Are you
in a relationship?
Yeah.
Can I just say, this is such an impressive attitude for someone who is how old?
I'm 27.
27. You're in a relationship, but you don't have children, you don't have a mortgage, and you're like, I need to hold it together for people around me. Like, do you know how many people could fucking benefit from that attitude? like you're like so young to have realized this. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I just mean that in an impressed way. Because there's so many people you fucking deal with who still don't hold it together. And they fucking have reason to. They have like 5 children reason to, or 3 children, or just like a partner who needs them. And they're just like, nah, like it's a very impressive adult. And I know that sounds patronizing, but I don't mean it.
No, I know what you mean. Don't worry.
I mean like thought out, attitude to have and to establish and to come to at such a very young age.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's like, because I've been an early child, a lot of my childhood, I think Ben and I have had a lot of conversations because I think we have very parallel like upbringings and stuff.
Yeah,
so I think being like an only child living with a single mom and my grandma, there was a lot of time for me. Like I was just always around older women and so a lot of my time was like spent being like empathetic growing up and then on my own when just stuck in my little fucking head and just like, you know, imagining things and like having to think everything through and stuff and being like it kind of forced me to become thoughtful.
And you're the man of the house when you're like 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're like little man of the house,
little man, little husband running around.
You're Swiss
little
Army man.
Son.
Yeah,
you're Swiss Army man. You're all-purpose male. And it's
but from 6.
and you know, I mean,
lot.
everyone has, you know, everyone's upbringing is unique to themselves, but it is there is a sense of responsibility, and I do feel like past a certain age, if you don't start taking control of yourself or your life, it gets beyond a joke.
Yeah.
And personality traits that may have been cute or quirky or funny in your teens or early 20s start becoming pathological, you know, mental illnesses that are very repellent to be around.
But I don't think people reach that level of like my mood affects everyone around me at 27.
I knew that at 27. I just didn't care.
Yeah, but you didn't act on it. Like,
No, that's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. I didn't
remember
care.
you then.
Yeah.
I remember
was
me
toxic.
then. Like, I'm not any better. But, you know, most people I know don't fucking care or don't have that awareness. Or if they do, it's minimal and it's passing. It's not enough to make them wake up and say, I don't want to be this person today.
Well, I don't like say it out loud. Like I don't come on the balcony and explain this. Yeah, catch a little
Happy, always happy, always happy.
catch a little animated bird on my wrist as it flies past. But you know, it's just I think it's just part of that thing. Where it's just like for me, it's just like I want to be thoughtful and give and make everyone
It's
feel
taking on
nice,
a huge
you know?
level of responsibility.
Yeah, it'd be
But
great.
do you take time? You know, a phrase that always comes back to me is, you know, you cannot help anyone else until your own oxygen mask is fixed. You know, that old plain instruction.
You can't love anyone until you love yourself.
Well, I mean,
type
but
thing.
it's fucking true, man.
Yeah.
Because,
I
like,
know.
you know, I feel like I give a lot to the people that are in my direct life. But, you know, I have to have one day a week where it's just I draw the curtains and turn my phone off and no one. No, I
Do you think that's an only child thing? Because I grew up with so many people around me, like big wog family, always people everywhere.
Yeah.
And I need time, but like an hour.
No,
and then
I need
fine.
a full 24 hours.
Like, I'll be like, I'm going to watch something for half an hour. And I'm like, I'm good now. Where are you? Like, I need people again.
Yeah, I think I'm more like the Ben way, where it's like I think I am like, even though I've said like all these I'm thoughtful and generous. I think also I'm super selfish.
Yeah.
Like I don't think.
Oh, we know.
Like sorry. That's all right. I'll accept it. I'm not lying. So yeah. No, I'm super selfish. Like I don't like. I think because it's that thing where I'm not selfless. Like I'm not doing these things just because I think it's better. I'm doing
Totally.
it makes me feel
feels good.
better. Like it feels nice, and it's nicer to be in an environment where other people feel nice as well. And so it's just that like I'm super selfish. I'm like I think my way is often the best way. So it's like, you know, like that thing where it's like a leadership. Like, you know, I'm in my default setting often is either a leader or a listener. So it's like those two things combined is just like, it's selfish because I just want the best experience.
But sorry, go.
No, I was just going to say I'm probably as selfish because I'm as impressed as I am with your attitude because I think it's also the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think if more people sort of, you know, took the responsibility of keeping their shit in check and being aware of what they put out to people around them. You know, it's the knock-on effect. So we have a friend who's pregnant. She fell on the floor. A guy who was next to her's first response was he started laughing at her.
Oh my gosh.
Really? I didn't realize.
Yeah, on Friday. I thought I told you. Sorry.
No.
Anyway, and it put this person
Godfather.
in the worst mood because, of course, she's pregnant. She's fucked off.
Yeah.
She told me, I was like, vitriolic. I told another friend who was really angry. It's that whole thing of like, there's this butterfly knock-on effect of you just, you know, like putting shit out into the fucking world without any awareness.
Yeah.
Conversely, like, you know, that's something to, you know, that's something you can't avoid. But I often find it, you know, like one cool person cancels out, you know, 100 fuckheads.
Shit people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
You
a
hope.
true act of altruism or kindness or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to what you said. I wish that was more kind of. Have you ever heard of that concept of selfish altruism?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
it's basically what you just said.
Yeah.
It's that idea of like, oh, it feels really good to be good to people.
Yeah.
And so I'm not actually doing this because I'm some selfless saint. I'm
Yeah.
doing it kind of selfishly because if it felt bad, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I wish more people were made aware of that it actually feels really good to be good to people.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would, you know, in a very selfish, materialistic society, if people realize that they could actually feel good from it,
Do you
maybe
think-
they would engage with it more.
Do you think you feel like that and carry that around? Because from an external perspective, I know you, but I don't think people who don't necessarily know you that well, Ben, would
Yeah, no, I know.
not believe you do that.
No, I know. I'm very...
I'm just thinking the last couple of times when you were drunk in a comedy club.
yeah, yelling at people. No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm very aware that the perception that people who don't know me very well is almost diametrically opposed to who I really am.
Yeah.
I'm
They think you're the raw nerve raconteur Ben Elwood.
I'm
Here he
aware-
comes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm aware that there's a perception of me as an incredibly angry, vitriolic person, and that is definitely an aspect. I will not, I'm not going to sit here and go, no, I'm not like that at all. Definitely like that. But, I think it's also very easy for people to have a kind of caricaturized, two-dimensional view on most people that they don't know very well. And we do it.
I think it's just because it's easier to process because you're
Yeah, of
engaged
course.
with so many people. You have to. You have to look at them and be like, good, happy person, annoying shit cunt.
Yeah.
You have to like really quickly be like friend, foe, because otherwise you just engage with so many people.
But I also go out of my way, and I know, I'm not saying this is necessarily a good thing, but I feel like, and I know you have this, and you probably have this too, Alexei, in that people, for whatever reason, feel very comfortable confiding in me,
Disclosing.
and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that, and I like it, but it's also fucking exhausting,
Yes.
and it's a fucking burden sometimes, and sometimes it's just like, leave me alone. I've said it to you before. Sometimes I feel like a chip surrounded by seagulls. It's like, fuck off. Just everyone leave me alone. So I purposely cultivate an air of fuck youery around people that I don't want to talk to. And I know that makes me come across as a real fucking asshole to some people, but it's almost like a self-preservation mechanism where it's like, I just can't give.
Well, it's exactly, that's the whole thing where it's like you're controlling your persona. I think the three of us here in this room, we would all say that we are people that give, we don't take away.
I do.
And I think that all comes with that as well, where we have like that little barrier. And I would say that the three of us have like a thing where it would be like, you try and put like a little bit of intimidation out there or like try and like something like that in some way to kind of stop that from going all the way through. Would
I don't
you
feel
agree?
like I consciously do.
But
I think
you
I
do.
just grew up with it. Yeah, I know,
But
because
you
people tell
definitely
me all the
do.
time. I think it's fucking hilarious because I'm scared of everything. But
Yeah, but so am I.
I don't think I don't consciously do it. The one
Maybe
thing,
not consciously, but
but it's there. But the
because
one thing
people
I'll
are
say,
parasitical. They will take everything from you if they can.
so yeah, I agree with that, and I'm sort of winding back to a second ago.
Yeah, sorry.
But what I was going to say, in relation to control and
Yeah.
these conversations where people sort of confide in Alexei or Ben or me, I think often those conversations that happen are as exhausting as they are and are as hard as they are because they're talking to you because they want an honest response and they want to have a conversation they can't necessarily have with someone else, which means it's going to already be heavy. But the danger is I feel like sometimes people have said things to me knowing they are wrong, knowing I will disagree with them and knowing I'm going to say very passionately how I feel and then being angry at me afterwards, but still wanting a part of them to hear it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like I've known people for years where they know my stance on cheating, which is I think it's kind of bullshit. Unless you're in an open relationship, just fucking break up with this person, balls up or whatever.
yeah.
And or tit up if you're a woman. And
it is 2018.
equal, we are equal. And I had a person that I know, like basically be a dick to their girlfriend, and I went overseas and I was like, I think you should break up with your partner. If you don't, you're going to end up cheating on them. Came back and they were like, can I hang out? I got to confide in you. And I was like, you cheated on your girlfriend. They're like, yeah. And I was like, that's fucked. And I like got annoyed because I knew their girlfriend and I was like, what you're doing is fucked up. And they were getting angry at me for responding that way. I'm like, why are you fucking telling me then?
Yeah,
like,
and you're
what?
like stuck in a secret. Like, who wants
I'm
to be
like,
stuck there?
You know how I feel about this shit because I told you before you fucking did it. So you're telling me for some weird reason. I don't know if it clears your conscience to have someone tell you you're a cunt.
Someone to punish you in some way
instead of the
feel like
person
you can get
you're
away with
hurting.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. Moments like that fucking suck. Other moments when people tell you like they're into some weird kink, I couldn't care less. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's
they want to
good.
feel safe in their kinky shit. But other people, when they're doing something and they're sort of looking at you to beat them so the person they're hurting doesn't do it, I find really irritating and offensive. I'm like, just go fucking talk to them. You want me to yell at you so you don't have to see their tears. You know, not into it.
Do you guys ever get that thing where, someone will have a very earnest, open conversation with you?
Yeah.
And it's a very kind of new experience for them. And I don't mean this in a boastful way, but it's like, well, I don't like to have very kind of superficial conversations. So it's not that rare for me. But then all of a sudden there's this weird kind of imbalance in the scales where it's like, oh my God, like I've had this incredibly profound moment with this person. But you're kind of sitting there going, oh, it was just a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. All the time. Yeah. Especially when people when you have that thing, for me, it's like those tiers of friendship where you like got those very close friends, like a wedding cake. You would have a bride and groom at the top. And then it's like you get bigger and bigger as it goes down.
Well, not that big, but that's fine.
It's a two-tiered cake, all right?
Well, for me, I've only been to Greek weddings, so the analogy, this is a humongous cake. But, then someone who you're perhaps not especially close to, when they take that to the next level, when they're like, having that deep and meaningful, that D&M with you like late at night. It's like, God, I could not give a shit what this person has to say, what this person's experience is. And you're just like, God, then they have this presumed friendship with you. Yeah. That's something that happens to me all the time where people have like this presumed friendship. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think about you. I've never thought about you outside of seeing you in person and stuff like that.
But do you have that thing, because, you pod a lot, where people have listened to your pod and they feel like they have this intimate kind of relationship with you because you've literally been in their skull for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And then they kind of bring this assumed knowledge to a conversation with you. And it's this weird imbalance where like I was talking to someone the other day and about half an hour into the conversation, they revealed that they'd listened to every one of these podcasts. Yeah. And I'm suddenly in this moment where I'm like, I have known nothing about you, and you've listened to over 20 hours of
You know about my ruptured anus?
Like, you know everything.
I don't even know your name.
That only comes in 2 minutes after we meet.
But it's this, but again, it's this weird kind of like, assumed relationship where it's like, but it's completely out of whack. Like,
I was talking to past Oinker, Tom Walker, about this the other night. We were hanging out talking about anxiety because I did a gig, and before the gig happened, these people had sex in the toilet, and then when I was on stage, they walked into the room, and I...
Wait, these were audience members that fucked in the toilet?
And I addressed
it. How did you know
I didn't
that they'd
say...
fucked?
Because I was in the toilet, and it went quiet, and then I heard them whispering to each other and laughing and then making booty sounds, and I saw their shoes. And
wow.
Then, while I was on... And then they walked out of the toilet together.
Young.
Out of the main female toilet door together.
That's a toilet thing I'll never have the courage to do, I don't think.
Please don't. It's fucking gross. But so I was on stage, and they walked in... And I addressed it on stage. I didn't say it was them, but I just started talking about how fucking grotty it was, and I felt like I was going to barf. And we did some jokes about it, because when I told Eric and past Oinker Tom Walker, the first thing they said is, in the guys' toilets? And I was like, why the fuck would I be in the men's toilets? So I talked about it. But then when I got off stage, I got really anxious about the couple because I was like, oh my God, they're going to come and kill me. And I was talking to Tom Walker about anxiety, and he's like, I'll walk you out. And I was like, oh, thanks. And Tom walked me to my car, and I was like, I'm getting really anxious lately, and I think it's really palpable because random people keep talking to me about it. And he's like, no, Jen, they've just heard the podcast. And they know. Like, they know now. And I was like, oh.
They're in on it.
It was a long story telling you that, but I just remembered the booty in the toilet.
But that was at a comedy show that people fucked in the toilet.
It was at Wayward's. It was so funny, too, because both Eric and Tom straight away just went, oh, like in the men's. I was like, why would I be peeing in the men's?
Pissing at the urinal.
It's so weird that they like
both of them separately.
Comedy is so gross. Like I remember,
It was pretty disgusting.
like probably a couple of months ago when I was like emceeing my show, we were like we were just like in the middle of a bit, me and Nico, my co-host, and I looked down to the audience and it was like this couple that were like 40, like in their 40s, just making out in the audience. And it was like, why are you guys doing this? You know I can see you. And it just like made the whole rest of the show about them because like that was like, this is so bizarre. Like this is every comedian's dream to see people become horny in the audience as they're on stage. And
They're not laughing, but they got really turned on.
it was bizarre. And then like we found out after, like people that were there with them came up to us and talked to us about it. And they said that they were there like after work. It was like a after work party thing for them almost. And they had that was their first kiss. Like they hooked up. They hooked up. And I was like, man, I believe this is an affair. It's even hotter now. Because it's like, oh, that's exciting. They're having an affair because of me.
Jamie Kirk did a gig recently and halfway through, it was at UTS, halfway through a couple started making out. There was only like 15 people in the audience. It was so funny because he mentioned it and everyone was like, pissing themselves. The best. It was the best because of all places where, like you said, you're gonna get horny. It's in a fucking comedy
You
gig.
can't.
It's the opposite of anything.
So sexy.
No, but when you're taken over by that thing, it doesn't. Haven't you guys ever had booty in a weird place?
No,
yeah, but not
no
at
comment.
comedy. That's
Where's the weirdest place you
not
had a
at
booty?
comedy,
Some
not
booty.
At comedy.
like just like in street,
In streets?
in streets, yeah, in streets,
streets?
yeah. When I was like a younger man, I
Really?
whilst I was clubbing, I like met a lovely woman. This is so out of my comfort zone.
Wow.
And then we go to the outside area where it's a little less people around, and then you eat stuff.
Not no people, just a little
Yeah,
less.
less. People are like coming around and go like, oh, what's this shit?
Where was this? What club was this?
This is so shit. This was Star Bar. Like this was like the old
So you
Star
found someone
Bar.
on George Street?
Yeah,
Oh
like
my
it was like probably the
God.
alley between Star Bar and King's
Who
Comics
are you?
and stuff.
I didn't know. I had no
He's
idea.
a man who's trying to please people around
Yes.
him. Okay?
Unbelievable.
He wants to give the people what they want. Him
Exactly.
making out.
George
I'm a freaking giver, baby. I'm a giver. Well, when I was single, I was very much like
This is like
used to fuck around, dude.
I think you and I had a completely different trajectory.
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, believe it or not, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was super happy, super positive.
Yeah.
I loved Big Brother and
Yeah.
listening
Oh
to
my
FM
gosh.
radio. Like, I'm serious.
Wow.
Like, I'd fucking bought it all. I loved it.
Wow.
Loved Home and Away, all of it. And
I can't even imagine.
Dude,
this.
seriously, yeah.
What the
and
fuck?
like that's what I'm saying. It's a complete opposite shift.
Yeah.
And then I went into this like hyper. It was like 9/11 fucked me up.
Yeah.
9/11 like changed
Are you
everything.
serious?
Yeah, big time.
That was 9/11 for you.
yeah, 9/11 was my 9/11.
Wow. You had 9/11, I had the King's Speech, and it changed us both forever.
No, I was watching The Wizard of Oz when 9/11 happened, and my buddy rang me up and he's like, "Are you watching the TV? Some idiot flew a fucking plane into a building." And I didn't even know what the Twin Towers was.
That was like, you're watching Wizard of Oz at like 7 a.m. on like a
No,
weekday.
I was in that night. It was like 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, I only remember it in the morning.
No,
Me
it
too.
happened
I was
at
in high
night.
school.
Wow.
So I was watching Wizard of Oz, loving Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
and then
I mean, great movie.
How could you
fucking
not?
one of the greats. And yeah, we were like laughing, going, "What kind of? How could you fucking not see a building?" And then like watched it happen live. The second one smashed.
Yeah.
And it was like instantaneous. And then I got obsessed with reading fucking all the reports about all the people jumping out of the buildings. And then
It was so sad.
to subsequently find out it wasn't 9/11 that made me cynical. It was finding out all the governmental stuff.
The loose change aspect.
Yeah, fucking
of it
watched
all.
Loose Change and it just cracked my fucking mind wide open. And
Yeah.
then I realized about the reptilians and flat Earth.
Wow.
No, not really. No, it was just that
Everything but the reptilians and flat Earth is true, but that you believe.
it felt like a veil was lifted, and not to sound too cliche, but it was like that moment where you realize, we grew up in the 90s where it was like, it's the end of history.
Yeah.
Everything's fine now. Nothing bad's ever going to happen. And I think that really
And now it feels like we're in history. Like
we
this
are in
past-
this. Yeah, absolutely.
The
past
fall of
few years.
Rome.
Absolutely, the fall of Rome. You didn't answer the question. Did you have? Where's the weirdest place you've done your booties?
No comment.
Really? You're not going to say?
No.
Really? That makes me think it's somewhere really fucking.
It's fine.
I'm scared. Was it on a podcast?
I did it on a
It was
moving
on a
train once.
podcast.
on the train.
On a moving train. It was
Oh,
it was one of those country link trains.
Yeah.
And about halfway through, we got a bit horny and went to the toilets and did it in that gross, with the stainless steel bowl and.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm
no,
saying.
we're grossy.
When the mood takes you,
Yeah.
what can you do? You got to fucking go with it.
Usually just young and dumb and
Yeah.
can't see around corners.
I was
so
not
think
young.
it's
I was in my
fine.
30s when I did that.
Yeah,
Wow,
but mentally.
those days are behind me.
Have you ever been out of control? Like you talk about, having a lot of control now.
Yeah, I think I like.
Can I just quickly interject?
Yeah.
I think you crave control only if you've experienced being out of control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Keep
think.
going. Sorry, Alexei.
Well, no, for sure. Like, I think that's why. Like, all my substance abuse shit is like, I don't drink very much anymore. Like, I'll still have a few beers and stuff, but I don't really ever go past the point of where I can't control it anymore.
Were you
And
like
then-
drugging, like pilling?
No,
and all that
never.
stuff?
I never that. I only I was just used to smoke weed, and that's probably as far as I would go. But I would smoke a lot,
Yeah.
and I've done like hallucinogens and stuff like that, and I really liked that. That was great.
You'd be
I mean,
delightful on hallucinogens.
yeah, it was fun. I would probably do them again one day. But like, I think for me, it was just realizing there's like, I've fucking lying to myself. Like that idea of where like I have nothing. It was just like that idea where I've got nothing in my life, and I felt like I had lost control of everything, where it's just like, I'm smoking weed because I think it feels nice or whatever. And then you just like, all you're doing is just creating ideas in your head and like lying and like, oh yes, I'm fucking writing this project and it's going to be amazing. And it's like, and then I'm not even fucking writing it. It's just like having ideas in my head for like this fantasy world that I've created and just literally and figurative, like it was for a fantasy, like a fantasy film idea. But it was just like, you're just building it in your head where it's just like, oh, this is all happening, and then you just realize like, oh, I've done nothing in my life. What have I done? And it's like I don't have any control over anything of this shit. I have to start making the steps to go into to access that world, like to go to access the world that I want to be in. I think that was when I like that was for me when I was like, oh no, I should get in control of this shit, and all the change happened for me. Like it was at the same time when I stopped smoking weed, like I just realized I didn't enjoy it anymore because I smoked until I was paranoid all the time, and that felt like I had no control. And that was just a minute where I was just like, okay, this is shit. I've got all this weed at my house, and I just never smoked it again.
Fuck.
I
How
think
do you get to that?
Oh, the only it still feels recent to me. It was like 4 years ago, and I remember it was the first year that you and I went to Sydney Underground Film Festival together, and
Really?
we smoked
That
like
long?
a joint. Then was like the first joint I'd smoked in ages. I'm like, I like this. Maybe I could do this in moderation again.
What movie did we see after that?
I remember I saw. We went and saw different movies. You went and saw
right.
Heaven Knows What.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is
That
like
was
a
a big mistake.
drug movie. And then I went and saw some other film, and there was another comedian who was there with me who was just talking at me. I was like, this is fucking... I was
my
like,
high, man.
Yeah, it was just like so bad. I'm like, oh, okay, this is not so much. But it was just, what did I see? It was just like some horror comedy film. And I
I
was
forgot
just
we
like,
did that.
yeah, and that was probably around then I smoked a little bit still, but then probably after that, like total stop.
See, I feel like I was out of control for so many years, like out of control.
Yeah.
Around the time, about 2 years after we met, Jen.
Yeah, I know.
Like real.
I remember.
Is that
like-
when you said you started to try and take control?
No.
spun out.
No, I was
Spun
like
out.
spun out
Oh,
of
wow.
control. Like to the point where in retrospect I look back and it's like, man, maybe I should have been sectioned, or there should have been
Whoa,
some kind of
fuck.
intervention, because
Not
it was
necessarily sectioned, but you needed help probably.
I needed a lot of help. You know,
Yeah.
like I was awake for maybe 2 hours a day, just bonged out of my head, couldn't pay rent. I was shoplifting food just to eat, and you construct this narrative for yourself where it's like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm like a crazy comedian that's just doing what he has to survive. And you're like, when you're in it, it's,
You can romanticize anything.
well, of course. And to admit it in the moment that, like, dude, you are dangerously out of control. This is fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like, your life has spun out.
That's hard to do. It's easier to construct your own narrative than like wake up to the fucking reality of stuff like that.
Well, because it's like, I think it's the mental or psychic equivalent of being, like 250 kilos, where it's like, fuck, like I know I got to do something, but dude, it's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of willpower, and it's going to take years before any kind of, change kicks in.
Yeah.
So it's easier to, especially when you're in the arts and everything, and you're grown up on a diet of biographies and crazy fucking movies and shit. You can so easily explain the behavior away as romantic or, funny or whatever, where it's just actually deeply depressing.
Yeah.
But it took me years to gain control. And to the point now where I feel like I'm very much in control, but I fear losing that control. Yeah. Like really fear it.
Oh, yeah. It's scary to come across something where it'll just wipe that out and you're just left knowing not what to do. Like, that's kind of where I've been recently, because my mum has been very sick to the point where I've had to like be her primary carer and stay with her. And to the point where I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like I've felt so alone where I'm like, I literally, it's just me. I don't have brothers or sisters or anyone to like go to. Yeah. And I don't have, my mum has like one brother. Our grandmother lives in like a nursing home now. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I have no control over this situation. I don't know what to do, how to do it. I had to call like one of her friends. I'm like, hey, no one's seen her for like 3 weeks. It's just been me. I don't know what to do. Can you come help me? And they just
isolating.
it's scary to just be like overwhelmed and just be, like you live your life. I'm like, oh, I'm a fucking man. I'm a fucking adult. And then you're just like, no, I'm a little baby. I don't know what to do. What is here to help me? So I just have to send her to hospital, like just get an ambulance to send her to hospital so she can be there for a few days and they can like try and get her back into the system of like getting her back into health. And then that was enough for her to like become an active participant in her recovery instead of it just being me doing like, nagging her and encouraging her to like go see physiotherapy because she fractured her spine like a year ago and now she's done like nothing to get there. Now it's just to be like me, someone who's got like my fucking own life to like stop that, to make sure hers is back on track. That's where it feels like I have no control, because it's like this is some immovable force just coming into my world. Yeah. And I would say that my mum is like she's someone that takes energy rather than gives it. And that's just like this thing where it's just like unstoppable. Like, how the fuck am I going to do this shit and it's lost?
And it's so huge.
Yes.
And it's another person. It's like people who are in relationships with people where they're sort of trying, you see those really obvious relationships, and we've all probably been in them, where there's that quiet undertone of fixer-upper, of like, oh, yeah, but, they'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
And the amount of energy it takes to help someone you love if they don't want help or they don't know how to help themselves is fucking mental.
Yes.
And most people aren't walking around with their tank pouring out overly full. Most people are walking around at a nice level where they can function and they can be, polite and cordial and friendly, but they're not walking around with, a massive energy and love and generosity to spare. It's usually them coping themselves.
It's just for themselves, yeah.
So when you have that thing where you are the, sole caregiver and sole motivator of another fucking adult. I mean, people have breakdowns with a kid and it's two people and they don't need half as much as an adult needs, It's,
and everything,
it's huge.
When it's parents or like a relationship where it's like this level of emotional bareness or shared experience, it doesn't just feel, it feels mythological. Like
but it is mythological.
Anything where it's with your mother, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a fucking myth and everything feels so big. Where it's like, I can't handle it,
And there's also that subconscious kind of thing of like, I'm the child.
Yes.
You should be taking care of me. Why am I taking care of you? And this weird kind of resentment that kicks on. There's also this thing of like, if you're caring for someone, there's this weird, it's this weird thing where your kindness almost becomes cruelty, because it's, you are, if you're doing something for everyone, it's almost like they cede their control to you.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're robbed of their own autonomy and their own, and I don't know how, I've still not figured out the way to help someone without helping them so much that they feel helpless.
I was
Does that make
talking
sense?
to a friend about this who was concerned about the relationship their mum was in, because I talk about this a lot because it happens with people who are in abusive relationships. They forget how to make little decisions for themselves and they forget how to, take control of those small things. It's actually really hard. I was talking with my sisters about it because if we go for lunch with my mum, one of my sister's instincts is to be like, what do you want, mum? And my mum will sort of, not know. She go, I don't, you can pick. And my sister go, oh, okay, you can do this and this and this. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, just give her the room and the time to make those tiny decisions. Because it enables them to take tiny bits of control, which you hope lead to taking bigger bits of control. But it's so fucking hard. And it's so hard as a carer to allow them to take control over little things when it seems like such a challenge for them. Like when it's like, oh, you order your tea. I'll have an Earl Grey tea, whispering it to you. So your instinct is to go, okay, they'll have an Earl Grey tea. He'll have a latte. It's like, no. Alexei has the ability to say it, or Ben has the ability, but the carer in you and the giver in you wants to fix them. But it's so fucking hard. I think my theory is like letting them make little decisions that they can handle. Yeah. And hope that it grows from there. But there's no basis for that. That's just my own experience that I'm trialing. Yeah. Well, but it could be horrendous.
But I think, if you're more inclined to be a carer than a caree, you can default into a kind of control freak mentality, which is then counterproductive to that thing that you were just saying.
Yeah, but I'm a control freak though.
Oh, you're a control freak.
But so are you.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm more than happy. But I'm a better person when I'm in control. I'm a much better...
Control of yourself or control of the external situation?
Yeah, but I mean, what's the difference?
No, there's a huge difference.
I don't think there is.
Yes,
when I feel like I'm in control of myself, I can control going to a gig and showing up on time, doing a good job, going home, going to work, making money, paying bills.
That's not what the external...
My external situation is... controlled by my ability to look after and control myself. I'm not talking about things like people around me.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I don't have any interest in controlling the people around me. I feel like maybe I did when I was younger. I'm not naive enough to think you could ever do that. I mean, I don't have that interest. But with things like, I don't know, helping people, I do think that people lose the ability to take control of anything. And it's so fucking hard to relearn that, whether it's from drugs or an abusive relationship or, someone just being fucking overpowering around you, or someone telling you, little language that's slightly abusive but not. Like, Ben, you saying, I want a beer. Of course you do. You drink every day at this time. Yeah. That stuff chips away at a person's ability to identify who they are.
In fact, it's more insidious than just outright abuse, I think. It's so fucked up.
Psychological abuse is so insanely fucked. But I think, I don't know. For me, I don't see the control that I have in my life as a bad thing, especially when I feel like I'm a much better person. When I was out of control.
Not saying you're out of control.
Yeah, it was fucking horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible to you, Ben, Alexei. It might have been horrible to you, Alexei. I'm really sorry.
I hope so. I hope I'm part of this narrative.
I mean, that time with Alexei when I yelled at you. No, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm a much better person.
When you're not in control, you don't even realize you're not in control. And that's a very dangerous place.
I was manic during that period that we're referring to. I knew I was a few years ago. But I knew I was out of control. I was so chronically depressed. I felt manic. I was like exploding with energy. I was just not coping. I felt so alone, but then I felt like there were people around me and everything was shit. But Ben was gone and I felt like my community of friends and people I hold so dear, because the danger with holding only a handful of people so close to you is your heart breaks when they're not there.
Yeah, when they slip away.
Not even if they slip away, they're physically not there.
Yeah, they go on vacation for a week.
Yeah. Well, Ben went on vacation, but also one of the people I dated, you can't maintain that relationship forever. Yeah. One of them went off to be a shaman and lick frogs, and one of them I fell apart with and quit comedy. Yeah. So all of a sudden I'm going to gigs. I don't know anyone. Right. I'm in my 30s. Everyone's 21 going, oh, you're a chicken. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Yeah. And so the joy of comedy was slowly disappearing. And it was really lonely and horrible, and I fucking spazzed the fuck out. Yeah. And I knew I was. And so afterwards I obviously went to therapy and I was like, I don't think I should drink for quite a while. Yeah. I think I should check myself into a few things. Yeah. But I am definitely much better in keeping that shit in check. I just feel more grounded too. Even if I have a day where I feel lonely, I don't feel like I want to die. Do you
fear losing that? Do either of you feel like fear losing that? Losing the current control you have over yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Considering that I
fear it, but it's like now, like Jen was saying, where it's like the community around me is important to me, but I feel like now I kind of have my foundations of my own a little bit more, where
Same.
I've built them up. Where if my community changes, my community falls, or my community changes around me or is different around me, I'll be okay. Like, you know, my main community used to be like the stand-up community, and then I started moving further away from that and moving more into like, you know, film and TV, which was which I was more interested in. It took me a long time to just go, all right, this is my primary focus. I'm a comedian, but maybe stand-up is not my medium. Like when that was happening, that was really difficult for me to go like, okay, the community around me has changed, but I know more clearly who I am now. Yeah. So that's fine if I'm not hanging out with like the same dudes at the same place that I used to hang out every night. It's different now.
Man.
You know,
I so wish I sorted this shit out at 27 instead of 30 fucking 3 or 2
everyone's on their own
whenever I
path,
did.
and you have
yeah.
to,
Well, I don't think I've sorted it out. Like I'll probably crumble tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, we don't, no one, you know, we never sort everything out. You constantly crumble and rebuild. Yeah. But in answer to your question, Ben, no, I don't. I'm not scared at all of falling back into that.
See, I'm scared like I've never been. Like I'm actually considering going and seeing someone. Like,
there's nothing wrong with that.
I think that's awesome. I am too. I'm going to go do it. Let's do it together as a couples therapy.
Group therapy. You guys aren't related, but we're all siblings.
We're all one will find the other. Similar advice will work for both of us, I'm sure.
So they're both son husbands.
Yeah, yes.
And I am the mum sister. Let's do it.
No, I really am. Like I've always kind of not contempt, but for want of a better word, I guess I've had more contempt for therapy than not. Just in the sense of, you know, the couple of counselors or whatever that I have seen over the, you know, the years, you know, I've had more enlightening conversations with Uber drivers.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like you're not giving me
yeah.
anything I didn't already know.
Yeah.
You know, I had one therapist like 2 sessions in that was like, there's nothing I can really do for you. You're very aware of what your triggers are. So, well, like, help me.
Yeah.
But recently, you know, I'm turning, how old am I?
38. You're
No, I'm not
turning 38.
I'm turning 37.
Oh, sorry. I stole a year.
Age me.
Oh my God.
That matters. I get freaked out.
It actually does matter. Yeah. We've talked about this before. I default think it's 2006 most of the time. And then age 10 years in a fucking heartbeat.
I always say I'm 21 years old and bright and ready for the future.
TikTok.
I'm still a prodigy. I haven't caught up to my talent that I basically had.
But no, as I get older, it's like I fear certain traits that are currently under control, losing those control mechanisms as I get older. Because a lot of the time it does feel like, you know, you're the little boy with his fingers in the dams holding back. For me anyway, it feels like, you know, you're really holding back a wall of anxiety and all of that stuff.
Let each puncture hole come at one at a time.
Yeah, but I can't. You know the way I'm wired. It's
You're
dude,
all or
I
nothing.
smelled burning last night, and my immediate first thought was, you're having a stroke. Not that the neighbors are having a barbecue. You're having a stroke.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a fucking healthy place to be. And, you know, I laugh about it and I joke about it on stage and stuff, but it is a pathology that, left to run its course, could really turn into a deep mental illness.
People also laugh at it because they completely relate to it.
Yeah.
So I would
It's
I would consider that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I do understand it's normal. I know that you're not going to get a room full of people laughing about it if it isn't kind of a universal thing. But
They're not laughing like, what is with this guy? I mean, how can he even?
What a weirdo.
Yeah, you know, like
We've all been there.
I'm
Like,
going
where does he come up with
but,
this
but
stuff?
mine is an obsessive.
Yeah, I agree
getting on a
yours is
plane.
obsessive.
I'm getting on a plane in 2 weeks to go to Western Australia. In my mind, I'm already dead.
yeah, I agree.
I'm
Yours
already
is
dead.
obsessive, and I think it's detrimental to your life.
It completely stops me doing a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
The
how
other
to
day,
fix
you were
it,
like, you
but-
should take a holiday and do. You know, I got a new job that's paying quite well. I've got a little bit of money.
Yeah, I was
you know,
like, pick something you've
pick
always
something,
wanted to
and
do.
in my head, I was like, I'm not going fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'll fucking die. It's you know. And so back to how we started this conversation, you were saying, you know, you've been thinking about control in terms of free will, and how much free will you have in all this. Do you believe that you have free will in choosing to be able to control this stuff?
I think so. I think I've come around to the idea that I don't believe there's like a destiny or anything like that anymore. I don't think that everyone's position in life is written. I believe that it's free will, and it's like you have to find your path and you have to confidently stroll down that path, you know, like you have to make your own opportunities. They don't just come to you and stuff, you know? I think that's kind of where I've landed on this at the moment. Who knows, maybe I'll change my mind about it. But it's the concept that interests me the most now is like people like us, we are privileged enough to have free will. But I think there are people out there that aren't as privileged to have that, like people that can't make their own choices and make their own decisions.
In what context?
Like, you know, people that are trapped in situations they can't get out of. And like for them, it probably does feel like there is no free will. It does feel like there is a destiny and their destiny sucks.
Yeah, it's
you know?
crap.
And because they don't have anything, like these are people that, I probably would never get to meet. They're like from, you know, from third world countries and stuff like that.
Or in Australia as well.
Exactly.
There's plenty of people who are in situations they feel are inescapable.
Yeah.
And it's not as dramatic as being poor and eating grass. They're people who
I would say there's people that
mental abuse or, you know, financial control, or they're here illegally and they're, you know, like there's heaps of shit that can happen that's not great.
Yeah. And I think for me as well, it comes from the idea like the free will, like you're saying, it's my family, I'm probably similar for all of us actually, you know, they come from a less fortunate place.
That's why they're here.
They came here as like, you know, asylum seekers to find a better world. And to me, that's where my concept of free will was. Like they were lucky enough to be able to make that decision and to make that change. And now...
And then survive getting here on a giant old boat if you're my family.
like
they got here.
Yeah. I think mine may be a slightly nicer boat. I don't know.
No.
But
Mine
pretty shit boat though.
not.
Yeah. I always imagine it's a cruise ship when they talk about it, but I don't know what it actually was like.
Love boat. Your mum's at the front in a bikini.
the king of the world.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird? Like my mum was on a boat for 9 months to get here. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy to think about. Like, you know, they were escaping fascism, they were escaping oppression. Like my grandfather was literally like going to be assassinated, and that's why they came here, because like his friends had been like fucking jailed by like fascists and stuff like that in Greece. And just like, I can't even fucking imagine that shit.
You hear the stories and you're like, fucking hell. My mum, I've told this on the pod before, I've told Benny heaps. My mum's first memory is like walking through snow when they were leaving Hungary, and her seeing soldiers and being really scared and saying to my grandfather, because he was holding her, like, oh, they're Ruskies, like, should we be scared of the Russians? And he's like, no, they're not Russians, it's okay. And they were like walking to Austria. I'm like, my life's really hard too. I did a shit gig. Fuck off. It's like, it's not the same.
There is that thing, you know, back to what we were saying before, you know, when I was laughing at you for telling Chris that his pain is, you know, irrelevant.
We were being obnoxious.
No. But there is also
I shouldn't say that. He wasn't being obnoxious.
There is
I was essentially being obnoxious.
there is something to that. It's true that, you know, as Doug Stanhope says, you know, how does your suck make my suck not suck? That is true.
Yeah, it is true.
But conversely, we're also in a position where we're some of the only people that have ever existed that can step back and acknowledge, hey man, you got it pretty fucking good. And it does help temper that. Like there was one time when I was about 18 years old, I was, I was standing at Broadway waiting for a bus, and it was just pissing down. It was fucking freezing, and I had that rage. Like every bus that would arrive would just go straight past because it was full, and just this injustice
Spit dirt
and
at you.
sucks. And at one point I just closed my eyes and I kind of imagined, you know, it's very dramatic, but I imagined myself in some kind of camp, you know, like where I'm like, imagine you're in a camp, it's raining. You're not waiting for a bus. You're waiting to be fucking assessed to see whether or not you can work or whether you're going to the gas chamber.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden when I opened my eyes, it was just like, oh, this is awesome. Like it was this real relief and this real gratitude for, dude, you're getting on a bus to go home to have a hot shower to you know, smoke cones and watch The Matrix. It's fine.
My
The Matrix is awesome.
Yeah.
Classic. Classic. My way of coping is by minimizing that, what you did, not from like a gas chamber, but to like, you know, if there's an interaction I have where someone's like a dick or yells at me from a car or is horrible, I try and minimize it where I'm like, oh, you know, they're so unhappy.
Yeah.
They're so unhappy in their life that this is the interaction that's happened.
Yeah.
You know, I'm clearly okay. Like I make a joke about it in a set where if people yell at you, you know, oh, you think you're fucking better than me? I'm like, yeah, because I'm not unstable enough to scream at a stranger. And you are. You know, it's like I try and I mean, I'm not saying I'm some Zen fucking Buddha because clearly shit goes wrong here. But that definitely helps me.
Well, yeah, you have to have some mechanisms in place because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but left to my own devices, I definitely default into it.
Oh, I have plenty of mechanisms in place to maintain this. This is not just me freeballing. Like, I'm like, there's a plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
there's a plan. There's vitamins, supplements.
Gotta have a Barocca in the morning. That helps me out.
Get your bounce. There's probiotics. There's yoga. There's stretching. There's walks after dinner.
Wow, that's a lot of things.
There's so many things.
Mine's just Barocca.
Someone has the natural joy. No, but I mean, they all help. Like little things help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm going to start implementing because I always default into it. Oh, who cares?
Do you have an app for social media on your phone? Remove them.
I don't have a phone.
Oh, yeah, you do. No, yes, you do. You're the thing you use when
I have
you
an
know.
iPod, but it has to be next to a Wi-Fi.
How fucking old did I sound then? The thing you use.
The thing you touch.
To talk to your friends.
No, I don't. But it's not a phone.
Well,
it's an iPod, and it only has the internet when it's near Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I don't like having the internet in my pocket.
I only brought that up because Ben and I were talking the other day with a oinker about how when we wake up and you look on social media how depressing it is. And I was saying I choose to look out the window because I get to see the planes land.
That's so good.
Well, I just like the planes now.
Yeah.
I like seeing the planes land and I can see them because of where I live, which is not, some people would fucking hate because of the noise, but I find it oddly relaxing.
Sydney's inner west is one of the most beautiful places in the world, so I agree with that.
But basically, I the other day removed all the social media apps off my iPad, which is next to my bed. And I had this weird rush of feeling fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I deleted them just because I wanted to make space for something else. And I was like, oh my God, I feel really good.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't think I'd feel like that. It was really strange. So that was like a little thing that made me feel better.
I get that rush whenever I unfollow someone on Facebook.
That's great.
Whenever I make a new friend, the first thing I do is go to their page and just click unfollow. And it's like this wash of relief of like,
when someone's just posting only depressing shit, you're like, sorry, I'm out. I'm out of here.
I'm a conscientious objector.
So it's a rush. But
it's an addiction.
Do you feel like when removing those technologies, do you ever feel less free by it?
By having
the other day, I felt way more free when I got rid of them. It's just off my iPad. It's not a big deal. I still have all the accounts. I could still use them. Oh yeah, they're still there. But I felt in that moment like a weird sense of relief where I was like, oh, it doesn't matter.
What? Yeah. You say you don't feel free?
I would feel like Facebook and shit doesn't matter, but without my phone
technology.
On me, yeah,
of course. I'm totally addicted to having my phone next to me.
I would not know how to exist in the world anymore. And I think I think
you would. I think you would.
I don't even know. I would get lost in my own city. I don't even know how to get around. No,
but when I got rid of the internet in my pocket, my memory increased exponentially, and I remember phone numbers. I remember all kinds of stuff. Your brain is incredible. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And yours specifically, Alexei.
Oh, jeez, thank you. Thank you so much.
I think everyone would, for me anyway, the first time I ever lost my phone, I left it in the back of a taxi. Yeah. And as the taxi pulled away, I went, no! And then the next thought was, oh, I'm free.
Oh, wow.
It was a big relief for me. But, I have an incredibly addictive personality and I can't not lunge for it every 5 seconds if I've got it. So, talking about control, that for me was a control mechanism I had to put in place because I don't know how to use the internet.
See, but can I just say, you have a lot more control than heaps of people because I know heaps of people where social media makes them feel like absolute balls. They do not have the control to remove it.
Dude, the amount of times people will see my burner phone and they'll be like, oh, I wish I could do that. And you can. Yeah. Anyone can. There's no contractual obligation to own a smartphone. You can do whatever you want.
You just reminded me of something with... Eric, who we mentioned on this podcast before, we were driving for a shoot somewhere and he handed me his phone. He's like, can you text this person his thing? It had like this shitty old burner cricket phone, and there were no numbers on it anymore because it's so old. They've been rubbed off. I'm like, honestly, I've got no idea what to do with this thing. Like, I don't know what numbers are assigned to what letters anymore. And I was like, nah, you have to pull over. I don't know what the fuck to do with this shitty phone.
It's like that reverse thing of feeling old by the new technology. It's like feeling ancient by old technology. Oh, man. Well, you know, we're all doing what we can, right?
Yeah. But I also, before we wrap up, I think we're kind of touching on it, but it's like, we're talking about like the free will and the destiny and how we're privileged to have the idea of free will, but there's like the opposite end of it where people have that, they feel like they have that entitlement to that destiny to things.
Definitely.
And I think that's something that I've fought to negate, is like that feeling of entitlement. It's like, I think it's so toxic, you know,
totally.
Especially when you're around people that have that feeling and just like trying to strip it away from them or something like that, especially because, you know, in this world of privilege that we live in, it's like your friends often have that fucking sense of entitlement.
Oh, big
and
time.
you're stuck with them, or, you know, either for better or for worse, like you love being with them, or you're just stuck with them because this is the community or the world that you live in. Yeah. And they just have this sense of entitlement, and it's just like, you know, why would you have that? Why do you deserve that? What is that destiny that you think you
I think it's that postmodern thing of growing up surrounded by biopics and it's everyone writing their autobiography before they've lived their life. Yeah. You know, and it's like, oh, this is the third chapter where everything is lost just as the last 11th hour opportunity comes along and turns it all around. Yeah. And, you know, there is that, there's a profound sense of entitlement that everyone matters and everyone deserves to be famous or well regarded and I think it doesn't take in that the reality of where we're living now in 2018 and with the kind of media landscape that's just busted wide open, there will never be anyone as famous as James Dean or Marilyn Monroe ever again. There will no one will ever gain that kind of worldwide ubiquity again because there's just too many channels, there's too many songs, there's too many apps.
Yeah, there's too much crap.
Yeah, there's too many splintered off audiences. There's not that mono culture anymore. No. So people are chasing a form of fame that doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah,
it's
you know, I'm going to be the most famous comedian. Well, maybe that 1 3-second viral video you make will be the one for this 5-minute cycle. But,
you mean it means nothing.
It means nothing.
That's one of my mantras is it all means nothing.
No,
and I love to take control of things, but I also am ultra aware that I have zero control of everything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not that this house could blow up and we'd all be dead and, you know,
but it's
from a
quite
gas
liberating.
leak and that's it. Like, you know, it's so freeing.
It's hugely liberating.
It's so freeing.
To realise that in 1,000 years, the only people that will be remembered are Hitler and Shakespeare, and even they'll be in some weird kind of like, you know, mangled up version of what a memory. It's not even.
No, they'll,
A lot of it. I was. Let's wrap this up. But there was a friend when Philip Seymour Hoffman died. Yeah. I was asking a lot of comedians, like, you know, if you could have Philip Seymour Hoffman's career, but you'd fucking die of a heroin overdose at whatever, however old he was, 41, 42.
Very young, very sad.
Very young. Or alternatively, you have a fantastic life. It's a great life, a long life. Surrounded by, but when you die, the only people that mourn you are your friends and family. Yeah, and
easy.
I tell you, it's to me, it's an easy answer, right? You take a good life, great life. 9 out of 10 comics were like, oh, I'll take the career. And it's like, dude, do you think when Philip Seymour Hoffman was dying of a heroin overdose, he's like, well, at least I've got a great body of work. Yeah. He was probably thinking, oh my God, I'm a father of 2 children, and here I go, I'm about to fucking die.
And also, I mean, not if you end up taking heroin if you're happy as Larry. So there was probably a few steps along the way that made him a bit sad.
Yeah. He's not going to like, thank God I did Capote and along came Polly. I've left my legacy on everybody that could possibly have lived.
Yeah, I don't know that legacy matters when you fucking, anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, we're all hippies at heart. You just got to be happy. Put it out there, Alexei. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope Oink Time is the monomyth that comes out. Along with Hitler and Shakespeare, it is the third most known thing in the universe.
Alexei,
plug your stuff.
Oh, cool. I am Alexei Toliopoulos. I've got the podcast Total Reboot with Cameron James, who's former Oinker as well.
Former Oinker.
I'm the current Oinker, so that's what matters. It's it's all about movies, reboots, remakes, and rip-offs. And is this one coming out now?
This one coming out, yeah.
Oh, awesome. So right now we are doing a crossover mini-series with our other podcast, Mike Check.
Oh, cool.
Where we go through the films of Mike Myers just to check if they're good or not, or still shagadelic, if you will. And right now we are doing the Halloween series, which stars the villain Michael Myers.
Very good.
So we're doing like a 5-week mini-series where it's like both kind of things coming together.
Awesome.
So we're doing Halloween, the original has just come out on your streams, and then Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which is when they try to change it into an anthology series that's not connected to each other at all, is the one coming out this week, which is one of the fucking weirdest movies I've ever seen, and that's a really funny episode, so check that one out.
Listening to Alexei talk about film is one of the great pleasures of life.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
As you're seeing movies with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love going to the movies with you. I remember we saw the Mel Gibson Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge.
And that was one of the early ways I would recommend watching that movie is with Ben Ellwood because it is a fucking crazy... Oh, it's
Mel
a
Gibson's
nightmare.
out of his fucking mind.
Yeah.
That was like seeing someone's unwell mind on screen watching that film.
Deeply disturbing
Yeah.
film.
And if you like stand-up and stuff, I host a stand-up show once a month, last Friday of the month. It's called Green Lights Comedy Nights.
One of the
You can
great
like
nights
that
in
on
Sydney.
Facebook.
It's awesome fun. Alexi, before you go, can you please give us a word for the hat?
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe we talked about it a bit. What about family?
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
family.
I like it as well.
Positive and negative, much
Thank
like every
you.
topic.
I'm going to write that down.
Thank you, Alexei.
Thank you.
so much.